Kevin, I want you to know, you just spoke to the longest serving state legislator in the entire United States. You just spoke to State Senator Fred Risser. I don't even know if Kevin Alexander Gray, he knows his history so well. I don't know if Kevin knows that when we sent that Wisconsin delegation to the 1964 Democratic National Convention, and when they said at that, oh, we don't have room for the Mississippi Freedom delegates. We don't have room for the delegates from Alabama. We don't have room for the Southerners who are coming in here saying, we want to make real the promise of civil rights. We want to make real the promise of voting rights. Oh, and the Democratic Party itself did not have room for the civil rights campaigners who had come to that convention. And they said, oh no, there's no chairs on this convention floor. Well, I want you to know that on that Wisconsin delegation that was down there toward the front of that convention hall, Fred Risser was at the microphone with that delegation. He was at the center of that delegation with Bob Kastemeyer, and they said, hey, you Wisconsin delegates, some of you hightail it back to the back of the hall. You make some room here for some delegates from Mississippi and Alabama. You make sure there's room on the floor of this convention. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Risser has been at the heart of the Wisconsin struggle for civil rights, for economic justice, and for peace, brothers and sisters. Fred Risser. That's who we are. We are so imperfect. We make so many mistakes. We make so many errors. We have forgotten so many things. But when you go deep back into who we are, when you go deep back into who the people of Wisconsin are, we are the descendants of those kids from Grant County and from Iowa County, from Rock County, Jefferson County, from Dane County, who when the call came to form units to march into that Civil War, they came and they signed up. And they did not sign up because they said, oh, we want to fight a war. Many of them were religious dissenters. Many of them had come to this country to get away from wars. They didn't sign up because they said, oh, we want to keep the Union together. Oh, that's the only thing that matters to us. No. Wisconsinites went and signed up to fight in the Civil War to end the original sin of the American experiment, to end human bondage, to end slavery in this country. That is who we are descended from. People say, oh, what should we think about this Black Lives Matter movement? I say, this Black Lives Matter movement is a prophetic movement that extends from all that is good in our traditions. Let us say not just Black Lives Matter, but Black lives will always matter to Wisconsinites. That is who we should be. That is what we must be. Don't let them draw wedges between us, brothers and sisters. If there is a prophetic movement, let us be a part of it. Let us embrace that movement. Let us raise it up. And let us remember, when we gathered in February of 2011, when we gathered at that state capitol, which we could almost see if they weren't building all these high towers here. When we gathered at our state capitol, the rallies of the people were held at the King Street entrance of the Capitol. And if you went down that long stretch there, you got to that statue of Colonel Haig. Colonel Haig, the Norwegian immigrant who came to the state of Wisconsin and who became our head of prisons for the state of Wisconsin. And when a fugitive slave came running north and finally got across the Wisconsin line, why, Colonel Haig, he would have that fugitive slave arrested. And when the slave catchers came and said, oh yeah, we'd like to take possession of that slave and take that slave home, Colonel Haig would say, no, I'm sorry, my friend. He's in the possession of the state of Wisconsin now. We can't turn him over to you. And they said, well, no, we want to take these slaves back to the South. And Colonel Haig said, you're a little too late. I deputized some of my men to take them up to Canada. They've gone to freedom because they got to Wisconsin. Oh, brothers and sisters, when Colonel Haig heard there was going to be a civil war, he put out a call for a Scandinavian unit that would take its orders in Norwegian. And they said, why do you want to take the orders in Norwegian? Because if somebody says retreat in English, I don't want anybody to follow that order. We're marching through till we end this sin of slavery. That's who this state came from. Our brothers and sisters, we gathered by that statue of Colonel Haig, and we stood out there on the coldest nights when the snow came down and the winds came up, and night after night we rallied to say that we will not allow anyone to tell us that a struggle for racial justice is separate from a struggle for economic justice. We will not let anyone tell us that we must divide our prophetic movements. We refuse to be torn apart. We come together in unity. And when I was at that Capitol back in 2011, oh, I love those moments. Christine Newman-Ortiz, I don't know if you are still here, but I loved it. I loved it when our struggle in Wisconsin began, and before our unions could figure out what to say about it, before our politicians could figure out what to say about it, Voces de la Frontera, the movement of our immigrants, had a statement out saying, we stand in solidarity with our public workers and with our unions against stop walking. Understand what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters. Our immigrant community, our people who are most under attack, were the first to rise up and say this struggle is right and we will be in the front lines. Oh, I was at that Capitol. I remember one time at that Capitol, I'm upstairs and I saw this wonderful group of Hmong immigrants who had come down from La Crosse and Eau Claire, and some of them didn't even speak a lot of English. Some of them were older folks, but they had heard there was a struggle, not simply for union rights, but a struggle to maintain public programs, a struggle to maintain the public sphere, to maintain public services for all citizens. And they said, yes, we are a part of that struggle because we are Hmong immigrants and we are Wisconsinites. You understand what I'm talking about, brothers and sisters? They keep trying to divide us. They keep trying to tell us, oh, this is one struggle, this is another struggle. No. The Wisconsin uprising was not an uprising for labor rights. The Wisconsin uprising was an uprising against austerity, against attacks on the public sector, against attacks on public education, against attacks on all that we do together to create a better society. And I love every one of you for standing up and joining that struggle and saying, no, we won't let it happen in our state of Wisconsin. That's not who we are. We don't accept your sin. We don't accept your wrong. Now, brothers and sisters, this is the truth of our struggle. It goes on now. And I know some people say, yeah, but you didn't win every fight. Everything didn't turn out perfectly for you. You didn't do the recall right. You didn't defeat this candidate or that candidate. And I always say to them, I am sorry that our struggle wasn't convenient for you. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're involved in a real struggle, you know what's going to happen? You're going to ask for more than anybody wants to give you. And when you ask for more than anybody wants to give you, sometimes they're going to knock you down and push you away and push you back. And sometimes they are going to defeat you. It is going to suck. No, come on, it's painful. You don't want to get beat. You don't want to lose. But then one morning, you're going to wake up. And it may take a year, it may take 2 years, but one morning you're going to wake up and you're going to see a poll out of New Hampshire. Part of the Wisconsin struggle. I didn't even know it was a part of our uprising, but you're going to see a poll out of New Hampshire that shows Scott Walker at 1% of the vote. You're going to see in that same poll that Bernie Sanders is at 43% of the vote. Bernie Sanders is beating Scott Walker by a 43-1 margin. You are going to say to yourself, yeah, maybe we at Fighting Bob Fest were the first to be correct. Maybe we figured this guy out before anybody else. But now there are conservative and Republicans in Iowa and New Hampshire that are hearing the story of what he did in Wisconsin, and they are saying, I am sorry, I don't want any of that in charge of America. Brothers and sisters, I apologize for the struggle being long, I apologize for it being hard, but I will not apologize for the fact that we were right in the first place. We were right about Scott Walker. We were right about austerity. We were right that it matters to stand up for labor unions. We were right to believe that labor rights are human rights. That labor rights are human rights. And we are right to believe that when we come together in community and unity and solidarity, we build something stronger and better than Donald Trump or Carly Fiorina or any corporate CEO will ever build. You know what else was right? I'll tell you what else was right. When nobody was paying attention to us, and hardly anybody cared. Why? Some days it felt like it was just Terry Fritter and me out there. Sometimes it felt like it was just Sue and Tom Holmes and me out there. Sometimes I wasn't there, but Sue and Tom and Terry were there. Sometimes all of you were there, but it didn't seem like anybody was paying attention. And then, amazingly enough, we would tune our radio in. We'd go searching there for 92.1. Sometimes at night, amazingly enough, we'd get home after a long day of protest and a long day of rallying, and we'd flip that clicker on our television. Well, first we'd figure out how to use the two clickers, and then finally we'd click it and we'd go CNN. Oh, no, that's not any good. No, that's a good. CNBC, no, I'm not getting anything out of that. We go, okay, Fox. Oh my gosh. Not that. And then finally we'd land on MSNBC. Now, I'm not telling you MSNBC is perfect, but on those nights there was something perfect because there was this guy from up in North Dakota. Oh my gosh, he was a big guy. He was a tall guy. He looked like a football player. He could have played on this field right here. And this guy from North Dakota, he would tell our story every night. And the amazing thing about it was he couldn't resist our struggle. And so he got those cameras, he got those crews out of New York City. He said, come on, we're going to Madison. We're going to tell the story from the streets of Madison. Brothers and sisters, I write books about media. I write books about how our media damages our democracy. But sometimes in the midst of all that hell, there's a little bit of heaven. Sometimes in the midst of all that decay, there's something wonderful growing up. And brothers and sisters, I want to tell you, when Ed Schultz showed up here in Madison, Wisconsin, something wonderful happened. This whole country tuned into our struggle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the tribute of our struggle, Ed Schultz.
I'm giving you a standing ovation. You're wonderful Americans, and it's been great over the years to be associated with you, to see your heart and your passion and your desire. We were right all along about that jackass, weren't we? I don't know, when you're down at 1%, you're about ready to get fired. I'm waiting for Trump to tell him that. You're fired. Well, as I'm sure all of you know, that I'm at a kind of a different platform right now in life, and life goes on, and it's amazing what life throws at you. I want to thank all of you for your prayers for my wife. Wendy's back at fighting cancer, and we're in a clinical trial in New York now, and we're going to get this thing done. It's just another curveball, but I certainly appreciate all your prayers and all your wonderful comments here. I've been backstage here today meeting a lot of you again, and I just appreciate your sincerity. You know, I get emotional when I think about Wisconsin. And what John was talking about when we were in that fight together back in the winter of 2011, I knew what was going on in Wisconsin was morally wrong. I knew it was wrong to attack a person's voice in the workplace. I knew it was wrong to attack their freedom of speech and try to limit their income and limit their ability to do things. And it was just so opposed to everything we've ever been through as Americans that made this country great. And so, if you were willing to fight, I was willing to fight. And we're going to win this thing. And now, look where we are. We now have a candidate who's never run a negative ad, who will not say something negative about any opponent, who will not take PAC money, and speaks truth to power, and is focused, just like you were focused back then, on the issues and what matters. I come from the middle class. I'm the last of 5. I'm a product of public education. My dad was an aeronautical engineer at the Norfolk Naval Air Station. My mother was a high school English teacher. I grew up during the Vietnam War. We had very interesting conversations at the dinner table. If it wasn't the Pope, it was Walter Cronkite. So I heard it all. I'm a product of forced busing for racial equality. And 45 years later, we're still fighting these battles. But nothing's lost until you give up. And there's something about the Badger country, you know how not to give up. We're all in this for something greater than ourselves. And we're all in this because we want to leave our kids and our grandkids something better than what we had. And right now, what's at the front door is opportunity. And are we going to leave our kids and our grandkids the same opportunities that we had? The same freedoms, the same voice? And I have to say that's all in jeopardy right now unless we stay engaged and move forward. Having lived it, having gotten the bills in the mail from Sloan Kettering in New York, $22,000 for this treatment, $11,000 for this treatment, $7,000 to see this doctor because my wife got cancer. What happens to the people that don't have the insurance? We're one of the lucky ones. The Schultz family's lucky. I've been employed for a long time, and it's going to continue. But what happens to those Americans out there that don't have that resource? You need to know and examine in your heart and understand exactly what is going on in Washington. There is a political party in this country that has voted to take insurance away from Americans who are sick. If you think that is America's moral compass, then you're not an American. And I'll stand here and tell you that. They're so proud to say, well, we're going to get rid of Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act, or whatever the hell you want to call it. The very day they had a Republican debate just the other night, it was in the news that afternoon. 9 million more people in this country have got health insurance. My wife and I looked at one another and said, well, how many lives have been saved? Is it worth one life? 5, 10, 1,000? I'll tell you what it's worth. It's worth my wife's life. And when you live it, and you see people have an opportunity in a country that can reach greater greatness than we have now, and we can do better than what we're doing, when you live that, no apology, you get a little mean. You get mad dog mean. You get pissed off. You say this is wrong, and I want to do something about it. Trade. If you followed my career, you know that I believe in American workers. I believe in collective bargaining. I believe that unions played a huge part in building this great country. I know you know the story. I like to hunt and fish. I got a buddy of mine, he was a bricklayer for 30 years. Ricky Grandboy, we call him Woody, lives in Hawley, Minnesota, 20 minutes from Detroit Lakes. He just retired. Bricklayer, union guy. I mean, he's never been so happy in his life. He goes fishing with Ed. He's got his health care. He's got his pension. The first check they sent him this summer when he retired, they had a note in there, you will receive this at the first of every month for the rest of your life. He worked hard for it. He's got some security. But you know what? That's kind of an America of yesteryear. That's not an America 10 years from now or 20 years from now, because we're so consumed with greed. We have a Wall Street economy. We have a service industry. We have paper shuffling. We have robbing going on Wall Street. We have trade deals that are coming down on union workers that will gut American jobs and compete with people on the other side of the world, which Obama says is a pivot to Asia. I don't give a damn about Asia. I care about America. That's what I care about. But I do remember doing the story on TV. Gosh, it'd be nice to see President Obama walk with those folks in Madison. I remember saying that. I remember hearing on the campaign trail, I'll get him nice shoes and I'll walk with you on that picket line, but I never saw it. But I know what Bernie Sanders did just a few weeks ago in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He went to that picket line, and he picked up that sign, and he walked. There are differences, and there are absolutes. This trade deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, will be the worst trade deal that this country has ever embarked upon. It will gut the middle class further, but we can stop it. It's not done yet. And you need to engage to save the American middle class. We don't need to compete with 47-cent labor in Vietnam. That's not, we want to bring them up. But you see, the conservatives, what they do, they'll tell you we're looking for emerging markets. Let me tell you what a Wall Street terminology of emerging market is. An emerging market is finding some poor son of a bitch on the other side of the world that's ready to do your job for nothing. That's what an emerging market is to the conservative media in this country. That's what an emerging market is to a hedge fund manager. And in the meantime, there's that story that we did in Lafayette, Indiana, just before we threw Romney out of the national picture. Sensata sent the jobs overseas. Then we go to Lorain, Ohio for the tubular steel mill. $300 million has been invested by U.S. Steel into the city of Lorain, Ohio for tubular steel goods. It's American jobs. It's new technology. We're producing more steel at that time tenfold over the Chinese, tenfold over the South Koreans. But here's the problem. We play by the rules and they don't. And when I did that story in March of 2014, the big concern from all of the workers was the indiscriminate dumping that they foresaw coming from China and South Korea and a lousy trade agreement that was going to gut jobs. You have not seen this in the media. In Lorain, Ohio, that steel mill is idle today. Well, I thought it was a good story. Hell, it's only American jobs. Our trade deals are so bad, it takes so long for us to file any kind of grievance through the World Trade Organization. It takes a year and a half to get any kind of a hearing. By that time, hell, the jobs are gone. And we sit back and we're about ready to do another deal, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, because we need to freaking pivot to Asia. This is not the same president I voted for and supported. President Obama has not walked with workers. President Obama has not stood up and stopped China from dumping on our market, or South Korea. Hell, this is the free market. No, it's not. It's American jobs. My point, there has to be some level of protectionism. There has to be some level of enforcement of fair trade, not free trade and screw trade on American workers. So we have a candidate that does all these things that aren't supposed to work. Not take PAC money, not say anything negative, not run any dirty ads, not, no personal attacks. But all of a sudden, he's kind of winning. Now, either the electoral process is totally screwed up, or we're all stupid, right? No. The American people are smart. And the American people understand this is about issues. And when you lose a job, there's a ripple effect within the family. So goes the quality of life. In comes the stress. There goes the health care. Can't pay the taxes. Can't live up to obligations. It's a domino effect. Oh, by the way, Bush told you to go back to a community college. No. We're talking about trained workers who do it better than anybody else in the world. And we deserve a level of protectionism across the board, and not just the steel industry, in every industry. I'm not going to stand up here today and tell you anything you don't know. Nobody's going to come in here and wave a magic wand and turn America around. Want to talk about the veterans? You know the story. Want to talk about public education? You know the story. You want to talk about health care? You know the story. So, what do we have? We have our heart, our soul, our determination, our vision, our belief system, our moral fiber, and where we want to go as a person, as a human being, as a community, as a region, as a country. Now, I believe that Bernie Sanders has brought something to the arena that has struck the passion of everyone who supports him that they didn't see coming. They didn't see it coming. That's the narrative right now. Well, you know what? He's been talking about the same stuff since I met him in 2008. There's no magic to this stuff. 90-some% of the American people wanted some kind of background checks. We didn't get it. 90% of the American people want corporations to pay the fair share. We don't seem to get it. The majority of Americans want universal health care, but we can't seem to get it. The American people believe in public education and investment. We want infrastructure investment, but we can't seem to get it. Bernie can't be bought. Bernie can't be bought. And when you ask a question, you don't get a generic answer. He's against the Trans-Pacific Partnership. He's against the Keystone XL pipeline. He wants to break up the big banks on Wall Street. He wants to make sure that your sons and daughters and grandkids can go to college at the University of Madison for free. Don't tell me we can't pay for it, because Dick Cheney told us deficits don't matter. You believe that son of a bitch got a new heart? I can talk like that now. Now think about that. A guy that has 5 deferments, can't suck it up and do what he's got to do for the country, manipulates everything he possibly can through the political process. He gets a new heart. It's good for him, good for his family, but hell, he doesn't want you to have universal health care because you're not as special as Dick Cheney. Is that the America you want to live in? Are you better than your next door neighbor? See what's screwed up about America? Money runs it all. And so we finally have a conversation going in the campaign arena that is completely different. We get straight talk. We get absolutes out of a candidate who knows what it's going to take to revitalize the middle class in this country and set the table for upward mobility for all Americans. You may be wondering what I'm doing. Well, you can go to my website, wegoted.com. I produce something every single day. It's just like a TV show. It's free. I'm not shaking you down for any money. You don't have to buy anything. And if you go to it, you'll see, hey, that actually looks like the Ed Show. And I'm going to go back to Lorain, Ohio on the 29th. And I'm going to go to Cleveland, Ohio on the 30th. And I'm going to go to Youngstown, Ohio on October 1st. And I'm going to tell the state of Ohio, wherever I go, that there is a choice. And it's not an out of the mainstream choice. Just because the corporate media doesn't want to warm up to a guy from Vermont. The fact of the matter is, all of the things that Bernie Sanders supports poll in the majority. This is what the people want. And so you may see me bopping around the country supporting Bernie. And so this isn't about who I like or who I've known or who I've had association with or whatever. But other candidates who want the Democratic nomination don't give me a straight answer on Keystone. They'll give you a straight answer on Trans-Pacific Partnership. They'll give you a straight answer on breaking over the banks on Wall Street. I don't get a straight answer on whether we're going to make corporations not be allowed to park their money offshore and rob our treasury. I mean, look, if you want to save the middle class, you got to have some straight talk from the heartland. You got to have somebody who's going to step up and get freaking after it, and you got to get energized and go forward with it. And that's where I am. I am a Bernie Sanders guy. I am going to support him. I believe in him. He is the guy that can turn this around. He is the one that will protect the vitality. He is the one that will tell the truth. My final word on this Bob Fest is about working families and unions. And my goal, just as when I spend a lot of time on TV, I spend a lot of time on health care, spend a lot of time on Wisconsin, a lot of time on trade deals. My focus is to defeat the Trans-Pacific Partnership because I know what it's going to do. And I will go around this country and I will explain to the American people, if you haven't been paying attention, that I don't think it's good for our democracy to have an international tribunal be able to make decisions to circumvent the United States Congress and the people you have elected so they can make a profit and you can get screwed. I don't think that's the America we grew up in. I don't think that's the economy we want. And on that issue alone, I don't need any other candidate. I got Bernie, I know where he's at, with all these other folks. Now let me give you some family tough talk. Now I realize that Hillary has been great with unions in the past. I got it. Did a hell of a job with the steel workers when she was in the Senate. I understand Joe Biden has a long association with labor as well. Do you know that every single union in this country, not one or two or 10 or 5 or whatever, all of them, across the board, are trying to tell our lawmakers, no to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, no. Our entire AFL-CIO Executive Council, no. But we can't get that answer, but only from one guy who wants to be president, and that's Bernie Sanders. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because there are some candidates that think you can't win the White House without Wall Street. Bullshit. You can win the White House with Main Street, and that's where Bernie's going.